Hi there, Janet Fritz here for Galaxy Girl Creations. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to Mixed Media Mayhem combined with Christy's Beautiful Life, 30 Days of Sketches. Today's sketch is from Kim Johnson Martin, and I had a lot of fun with this one. We are using a recipe that calls for metal, ink, and your favorite color, and this was Sandy's choice. And I know I'm super focused in right now at my layout, you guys, and you didn't get to see all of that mixed media process, but all I did was take the Artemisia silver paper glaze from Picket Studio, and I sprayed it on, or I went over the hole punch stencil in 12 by 12 from the Crafter's Workshop. And then I am taking a bunch of Dylusions ink and I am spraying it. I will be showing you the ink colors here in just a moment. I also off camera had done a little bit of heat embossing, but I didn't show you that because what I did was I forgot my ink pad and I used a little bit of glue through the stencil. You can kind of see a big 5 in the middle there and a K. Anyway, I used some glue through a stencil. I kind of dabbed it on, and then I sprinkled my embossing powder over the top. The embossing powder that I used is the Distress Embossing Glaze in Cracked Pistachio, and I was at a retreat and didn't realize I didn't bring my heat tool. So nobody else there had a heat tool. And so I went in the laundry room of the place we were staying. I found the iron and I used the iron, heating it from the bottom. I didn't really, I didn't put it down on the paper or anything. I just held it really close to the paper underneath, in the air and waited to see if it would heat up and emboss. And it sure, in fact, did. It didn't do a great job, but it did it well enough for mixed media. So then I had a piece of chevron paper here and I cut a circle out of it. I used my friend's Cricut and cut a large circle out of it, and wanted to make sure that all of my mixed media was going to show through the center. And I did trim down my paper all the way around the outside so that I have a little bit of reveal to create a bit of a frame around the outside. And now what I'm doing here is I'm lining up the whole of the circle there, and I am going to put some glass beads all the way around it, and I'm going to mix it with some black Dylusions. So the Dylusions is their black marble, and I am using their shimmer spray. So it's got a little sparkle to it too. It's not super bold. I'm going to mark this circle with my pencil. It's going to be pretty faint. I don't really care that it's faint, and I'm not going to be able to erase it because the glass beads are going to cover it up. And if you're not really sure what glass beads are, it's kind of like a modeling paste, and it's got super tiny like micro beads in it that are, I guess, essentially made of glass. And when they dry, it looks like these little glass beads, but because I am coloring it black, it's going to look like little black beads. And I want that to show around the outside of, or the inside of the circle. And that is why I put foam on my paper, the back of my paper, so that the dimension of the glass beads will be able to show through the paper and not create like bumps underneath the paper that's going on top. So because I'm adding all of this dimension to my base paper, my top paper has to allow for that, and that's why I've got that addition of all of the foam on the back of my chevron. Now if I was really smart, I would have made sure those foam pieces were all the way across at the bottom of my paper, because I'm going to actually do a little more mixed media on that chevron paper and have the inks dripping down the front of it. And it did warp, especially where there was no foam underneath. And in hindsight, I probably would have done that a little bit differently, but at this point it's done, and it doesn't look terrible. It doesn't look bad or anything, but it does have a little bit of warping. So, and you can kind of see it there where it bends really easily. That's where there is no foam behind it. So note to self, either cover it completely with foam or do this portion of the process before you put the foam down. Either one would probably work really well. So I'm just using the same inks that I used on the inside, and I'm letting them kind of drip down. I've got this box, I've got the paper kind of propped up at an angle so that they will drip, and I'm using a little bit of water to kind of coerce it to drip down the page a little bit more, using some of the black, not the black, I think I used a little gray. I'm going to show you those bottles if I haven't already. And I'm really liking how this is looking. So I don't know that I would call these my favorite colors, but what I am doing here is I'm using these photos of my husband blowing glass when he was in, I want to say, elementary school. He's in the foreground. His dad is in the background. His dad was an internationally known glass blower. He also taught at the college here. He taught glass blowing. And so he my husband took his class on a field trip. They walked down to the college, and my husband did a little bit of show and tell and showed them how to blow the glass. And so when I came across these photos, I didn't know what color I really wanted to use, and I asked my husband what he thought I should use, and he said green and blue because that is like the most common color of glass in glass blowing. So that's what I did. And so I'm going to call these his favorite colors. I'm not sure that they're what he would really maybe consider his favorite. I'm not sure he even has a favorite, but for this purpose, that was his favorite. So then I had some film strip from Tim Holtz. They're actually not from Tim Holtz. These are from Spare Parts. They're like the Tim Holtz ones, but they're the Spare Parts ones from Hobby Lobby. I just trimmed it down to the size that I need. I also have this light bulb clip. I'm going to use that. I thought that worked out really well for glass blowing. And then some tickets that I have left over from my Some Assemblage Required embellishment box. I think I'm pretty much out of film strips, and that's why I had to go to the Spare Parts ones, and those have been in my stash for a long time. I just haven't used them, and sadly they were kind of misplaced for a while, and I came across them recently and thought, oh, you know what, I'm going to stick these where I can find them easily and use them to get them used up and out of my stash. And then I have a bunch of die cut pieces here that I used several different dies out of my stash. The arrow is from an Elizabeth Craft Designs set. The brick wall is, I want to say that's Paper Rose, but I could be wrong on that. The paper edge and the little number set, those are both from Bramble Fox. Anyway, the gear set, I'm not sure where that's from. I actually borrowed that from a friend of mine. And so anyway, I've got several different ones here, and I am using some different Distress Oxide inks, and I think, let's see here, I'm using some iced spruce, salvaged patina, and peeled paint. The peeled paint is not an oxide, but the other two are, and I'm just inking up the brickwork there, and I'm inking up this arrow. I'm not really sure where I'm going to use everything yet, but I know I'm going to be using them as layers. I am going to end up going over the arrow and making it a lot more saturated with black, I believe. And I keep saying I believe, and that's because I haven't looked at this layout. Well, it's not that I haven't looked at it. I did this layout at a retreat a little while ago. So that is why I don't know 100% where which portion I'm at, because they all start to run together, to be honest with you, which sounds crazy, but when you do a lot of layouts back to back, I don't, the process kind of is like, oh, wait, what did I do next? Especially since I've waited a while to voice it. So my apologies for that. I know I'm not going to end up using that number piece. I thought I would use it, but then I don't end up using it. I thought it would be a nice way to mimic the embossed numbers in the background, but the embossed numbers don't show up that much, so I was like, yeah, you know what, I'm not even going to worry about it. So yeah, there I go. I'm darkening up that arrow. I want it to be really black, and I'm really liking how it is looking. I like that it kind of creates a little frame for that little ticket, and I'm going to create a few more or add a few more tickets to this layout to create a little bit of a more robust cluster. I'm liking how that's looking. The little paper edge piece is going to actually make it on this layout as well over on the right hand side also. Using the clip to hold the different layers of tickets in there, and I am going to actually add another piece of the film strip over on the bottom left hand corner there with that little cluster. Now I'm inking up this extra piece of paper here because I'm going to die cut the words show and tell out of it using these small dies from Elizabeth Craft. And I don't know if these are currently available. This is the Retro Alpha set. It comes in 3 different sizes, and I will check on that. I will put links to everything that I can find down below if they are still available for you in case you are interested in purchasing anything. And while I create this title, which is going to be popped up on some black foam, so I add the foam before I cut it. And while I do that, I will remind you that there are a bunch of people playing along with Mixed Media Mayhem, so you can go check them out. The links are down below. And there will be also a link to a playlist for 30 days of sketches where you can find all of the sketches that, or all of the layouts that have been created to date for this series. So I am basically calling this show and tell. I really like the simplicity of the title because there's also a lot going on with all of the mixed media. I also chose that particular stencil because it reminds me of the glass that he's blowing in the photo is kind of like an orb, and being that he was just a kid and everything, it's really imperfect, and so it kind of mimics the imperfection of what he's creating there. In the photo, it's his dad helping him, and then in the background, there's his teacher and some of his classmates. And so I thought that was kind of cool. And actually, these photos are a photo of the photos, the original photo, because he didn't want me to cut up his original photo, which I wasn't going to cut it up anyway. I was going to, it's going to be a full photo on here. But it allowed me to put all 3 of these photos on one photo rather than just having a 4x4 because that's the size that his photo was. So then I got 2 additional little photos and I was able to zoom in on some of it, which I really liked. So here I've got my my labels or tickets going on. I really like that. There's just a little bit of void in the photograph there, so I don't have to worry too much about that covering anything that's, detrimental or anything. And then I just added a little bit more foam behind the photo to give it some added support. I really like the way that the glass beads also go around the inside of that circular element. It adds more dimension, and it really gives it a really nice defining line where that circle is supposed to be. And I didn't have to do anything like ink up the circle edges. Well, obviously there's ink at the bottom because it's all dripping down there, but the top edge I didn't add any ink or anything like that to the edge of the circle to give it definition because those glass beads, turning them black really, really helped that. And I just put a little bit of glue on the back of my hand there because all of these pieces need to be glued down, and they're super fine, and it's much easier just to dip them in the glue than it is to try to put the glue on the back of them. And by putting it in my hand, I don't accidentally set anything in the little pile of glue that I've created. And also my hand is really close to the layout because I'm working on it, so it makes it just really super easy to tap it off on my hand and stick it on the layout because everything is all centrally located. So here's where I'm adding this little film strip to the left hand side just to bring a little more of that black over to the left, and I really like how that's looking. I really like also the metal piece here. I don't use clips very often, but I thought this was the perfect clip to use for this because it also kind of mimics the orb kind of look. It is a light bulb, so light bulbs are made of glass. I don't know, I thought it just went well with it. it was the best option in my stash anyway. And now I've got this little book piece or bookbinding piece, and I am tucking that in underneath the photo, but on top of the film strip to give a little bit more texture and dimension there, and adding in a little bit more of the blue that is more blue and black than green and black. And that is it, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this layout. If you have questions or comments, drop those down below for me. I will be happy to get back to you as quickly as I can. I really appreciate the time that you guys take watching my videos and spending time with me. I really do feel honored that you guys chose my videos today, because I know there's a lot of inspiration out there. So thank you for that, and I will see you guys again real soon with another video. Bye-bye.